want to start out by saying that I am not a civil libertarian. I am a law enforcement executive who recognizes hot stove issues that exist and know what happens when you touch a hot stove, you get burned. And when you get crossed up with the privacy and civil liberties issues, that is a hot stove. And one of the things that we have learned is one thing to know there's a hot stove and be careful around it. It's another thing to take an issue like new technology and social media and not realize that there's a hot stove in the room where you're wandering around. And that is what's happening across the board in many instances when you have law enforcement executives such as myself that are not very attuned to technology or social media. I use email, and that's about the extent of my knowledge in the use of social media. But I recognize the dangers of getting out too far out of the bounds of what is the proper law enforcement use of social media. And since 9/11, terrorist attacks, the ability to collect and retain and share information has been greatly expanded. So we had two things that come into play. Social media is really come into its own and being used across the spectrum of all the public, criminal justice, other government agencies, that's occurring. But at the same time, since 9/11, we've greatly increased the ability of all of us to collect and share information, collect, share, and retain information. And as we've been doing this, American citizens are concerned about how our abilities to use social media and how our abilities to use technology are being employed. And I don't think I would be shocking anyone here to say if you look at what is happening with the NSA today and the scrutiny they are coming under for the abilities they have to collect information, analyze information, share information. That's their problem. But their scrutiny that they come under filters down to us. Because then I'm sure many of you may have been questioned by public officials in your agency if you're doing things similar to what the NSA is doing. So there's perfect example of this. You look at the political coalition that is scrutinizing the use of technology by law enforcement, criminal justice, and government agencies. The harshest critics, the ones that are asking the most pointed questions, look at that political coalition. The very liberal side of the political equation, the very conservative side. They banded together to question what we're doing, what law enforcement is doing, what criminal justice, what government is doing with technology, social media included in that. There will always be a balancing of interest between privacy and information access. That's the nature of the beast. That is not going to change. What the test is for all of us is to keep there from being and things getting out of balance. That there be so many restrictions in the use of social media and technology, so many restrictions because of the concern about privacy, civil liberties, that we lose the use of that technology. I sat through a lengthy meeting yesterday with the IACP Investigative Operations Committee. A good part of that discussion among the attendees, and that's a large committee, and the consensus of that committee was, if we are not very careful, law enforcement is going to lose the use of technology, many forms of technology, in our ability, in our law enforcement work. For instance, license plate readers. That's old technology. My goodness, I came to IACP 15 years ago and they were selling license plate readers. But you look at the scrutiny that is coming into play with that now. Old technology. Various states are out restricting the use of law enforcement with license plate readers. How that's going to play out, I don't know. But that's the old technology. Fast forward to where we're at here today with social media and all of the new software products, all the new technology that is out there to be used in social media, and they haven't even gotten around to scrutinizing what we're doing in what law enforcement is doing in the use of social media. So presentation here today is to give you some guidance on how to set up a policy that'll keep you from being the poster child of the NSA for violations of privacy, civil liberties, and the use of social media. Great tool. Don't just all of us know that, but you have to be guarded. It's not an open-ended vehicle there that you can use nilly-willy without due regard. Let's talk a little bit about this. Now, I started out to be a history professor, and my mother, who was 88 years old, she hopes that one of these days I'll give up this foolishness of being a law enforcement officer and go into teaching history. I told her, Mom, I've been in this business 41 years, I'm not changing career midstream. But anyway, I look at things through the eyes of a historian. And you can go back and look at the major problems, some of the worst issues that law enforcement has ever been involved with. It's centered around mindless collection of information, privacy, civil liberty violations, loss of public trust, and a disaster for the involved officials. You look at what has occurred with law enforcement monitoring First Amendment protected events, going out, taking photographs, writing down tag numbers, things that are legally permissible by the public, but it's not appropriate for law enforcement to be doing that without a law enforcement purpose. Mindless collection of information. That's what I'm concerned about, and many of my colleagues are concerned about what is happening in social media. Tremendous capabilities out there, but if we don't have law enforcement purpose, we're getting into collecting information mindlessly, and there's going to be disaster. History of problems.